significantly modified it. I've raised it by a good couple of inches on top because I wanted the more leg room, and I've maintained and improved the padding at the rear from my wife and pillion, and I'm very pleased with the way it's finished. Grey down the side, anti-slip black on top. Yeah, very pleased. That said, I've always had the opinion that you know, this is so that I can double up and use it for Sunday morning breakfast down on the coast for the two of us, but at the same time I wanted the sort of the full cafe racer sort of option. So I looked at buying an alternative, another seat, thinking, yeah, I'll get another one of those on eBay cheap from someone that's breaking it up. Yeah, right. They're just not available, and I think new ones prohibitively expensive. So I thought, well, okay, I will take a mould off the bottom to come up with an alternative model to start with. But all things considered, yeah, not sure about that. I don't want to get fiberglass gel and that, and even though I can cover it all up with plastic and the like, I'm thinking maybe the best thing to do would be to start from scratch. So that's what I'm doing. So what I've done is I've cut a cardboard template. I just basically started off, marked it around, and then I cut it down the centre line, or just scored it down the centre line, so that I make sure that it is exactly symmetrical, so I'm not having anything that's slightly wonky. And I've cut, so it's going to sit on top of the frame here, but I need it to come lower as well down to the side panel, because that's the original seat. The seat kind of has a 90-degree bend there, and then the vinyl wraps around and underneath it and is stapled on the back of it. You can't staple upholstery, and you can glue it, but you can't really staple it onto fiberglass, and I don't want something in fiberglass alone that's going to be very, very rigid and a bit crack, and you know, a bit too brittle. So I started off with a cardboard template, and that's going to sit there. I've got to build a little compartment, if you like, here for all of the electrics that have been relocated, and I still want access to the original key operated seat lock, so that just by turning the key I can take this one off and put the original or the modified dual seat back on. So I'm going to cut this out of, I'm going to start with probably, I think it's about 8mm ply. In fact, it probably says, no, it's 9mm ply, and that's going to form the basis of it. That will just give it a little bit of rigidity. Then I can build up around and form in effect a mould for the little box to take all the electrics. And then I'm going to have a little play around with, and I'm going to make it, as you can already see, this will be the sort of the seated area. I'm going to make it narrower at the back without the requirement for a pillion seating. I'm going to make it narrower and a lower profile as well, with a different backlight as well. So I just have to disconnect the backlight and the brake light, in effect, not the backlight. The backlights are in these two here, and I may, as you can see, it's quite narrow at the back here. I may have to just trim, in effect, the corners off this thick steel plate, which braces these two rails and also provides the seat lock base. So that's kind of what I'm doing. Let's get on with it. So I've cut myself a plywood template, and this is where the electrics sit, and that's where the seat catch sits, and this is where cabling passes over a strap which holds the airbox up. This clears the fuse box and a couple of sensors and the bottom of the battery. So that all fits on nicely and will form the basis of the new seat. So as you can see here, this is the full width for the seat, and then whereas the old seat is to come up full width right the way across for the pillion, what I'm now doing is bringing it in, and this is a starter for 10, so it may even get slimmer here. So this is the bit which will form the seat hump. However, I thought I'll make some cardboard templates up and I'll fabricate something here which takes up the seat base over the battery and the fuse panel, and I'll use some steel brackets to strengthen that. But proved to be very complicated. So this bit I wanted to sit nicely against the tank like the original seat, and you've got a sort of a rim around here, you've got to clear the battery, you've got to clear the leads, it's got to come back, it's got to be strengthened. It's just proven to be quite difficult. So at this point I thought, right, let's have a look. If you look at the, I don't know, for those that haven't seen it, this is a fairly heavily modified seat. So it's much deeper here. I put 2 inches of extra padding, and it's much slimmer across here. It used to come out much wider, probably a couple of inches each side. So it's much more slimmer looking, and I relocated the 2 hooks so it fits, it sort of locks onto the seat in 3 positions. One, there's a little lug here which sits under the tank. Secondly, there's 2 kind of clamps which sit under a part of the frame, and then there's a seat catch at the back here, and then of course the back rests on a steel plate, part of the frame. So the difficult bit is this bit, and I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, that's not coming out too bad. It's quite complex, so I need this edge to form the base of the seat, but there's a hollow bit here which is quite a complex sort of shape, strengthening and all the rest of it. So I thought, the easiest way of doing this, because I would love to have bought a new seat or a second-hand seat or a wrecked seat with you know, a knackered cover and foam, but they don't exist. So for this part only, not the back, because that's, I've already got my wooden template for that, I'm going to use this as a mould for a fiberglass start for 10, and then I can strengthen that on the underside before I then add the foam on. So I don't want a great big solid thick thing in fiberglass, I do want some rigidity. So first of all, I started off by using masking tape to protect the I think it's UPVC or something base. I then used cling film to protect all the new cover and all the rest of it, several layers obviously, and then I've used parcel tape, which is a sort of the universal go-to and recommended for a base for fiberglass. So it's nice and shiny, and hopefully it won't stick too badly, unlike the last time. So that's what I'm doing. I've got some strips of matting which I am going to, let's just adjust that, strips of matting which I'm going to sort of make a base, and then if I've not got too much resin at the moment, if I've got enough I may even use a much finer mat to give it a sort of a finished, because all the additional fiberglass and strengthening will be done on the seat side, on the foam side, before I obviously put the foam on. So that's what I'm doing, and yeah, it's kind of it's great. This is kind of fabricating, and it's being creative, and yeah, quite enjoying this. Quite exciting. And yet, whenever I do fiberglass, I haven't done a lot of fiberglass. I did a little bit when I was at school a few years back. But if you don't mix it right in the first place, you're like, oh, is this going to go off? Because this doesn't go off, it's going to be a right mess. And you have to sort of scrap everything and start all over again. So real mess. In putting too much halfway through doing it, and it's all going hard too quickly. So there's always a little bit of a nervous anticipation and a tiny bit of panic. That's all part of the fun of it, of course. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm only doing this half here, and then I shall use some brackets or just fiberglass this onto the wooden base as and when I get it all finalised. So yeah, let's crack on. Right, so I'm just going to lay up a couple of layers of fiberglass in strips, just so that it takes on the shape of the seat base around the battery cables and fuse panel. And then I'll leave that to harden up overnight, and I'll catch up with you next time.